Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and I hope you're all having a fantastic Mother's Day, either spoiling your moms or the one being spoiled. Now today I'm starting with my Italian meringue buttercream, and I am going to slow it down for you guys in this particular tutorial. I know I've shown you guys how to make florals before using buttercream, but I've never done it in real time. So I'm going to leave some of this in real time and speed it up once you get the hang of it. And again, I am one of the worst gardeners and know very little about flower names. So let's just say I'm going to tell you how to make a selection of pretty flowers. So for this one, I'm going to make sure that I'm laying the tip kind of nice and flat, wiggling it around, and then I'm pulling off. You'll notice I pull kind of straight towards the middle when I do that. You do want to make sure that you stop squeezing. Now you'll also notice that I'm using a coupler on my piping bag. Reason being is because whenever I am switching off tips and using different colors, I like to have the coupler on there just so that it's really easy to do. Now I'm doing another layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in some of these little pearls in the center. This would also look great with just buttercream centers as well, or you can use little black nonpareils, whatever you want to use. I made these for a special Mother's Day tea that I made for my own mom, and these are mini cupcakes. Whenever I'm putting on tea or parties of some sort, I generally like to stick to mini ones, just because I found that my guests usually get too full and feel a little bit intimidated by those large cupcakes. Though I do love the look of large cupcakes, and I also love combining more than one type of flower on a cupcake. For this particular flower, I am using a tapered tip, which means that the bottom end is a little bit fatter and the top end is nice and thin. I am making sure to keep the fatter end towards the cupcake and the thinner part towards the sky. Now I did add just a little slight bit of purple in Chef Master to my buttercream, and I mixed it in. I know a lot of you guys have questions about mixing in different colors to meringue-based buttercreams. The Chef Master and Americolor seem to work well for me. The trick to making this rose is making sure that you have even pressure when you're actually squeezing. And then when you lift off there, you're kind of just making sure that you don't drag off any of the other bits of frosting. And I will say that the quality of buttercream that you use is so important. What I like about my Italian meringue recipe is that it turns out the same every time, and it's so pipeable. When I've tried to do this with American, I found that it always failed, and I would get so frustrated. It also matters that you kind of follow the shape of the cupcake as you're doing this. You don't want it to look like a squared off rose, and you also want to make sure that you overlap the petals correctly. As I'm doing this, by the way, I'm just adding in a little bit of color here and there, squeezing out the piping bag and using the exact same piping bag and just switching off the tips. I really want to stay all within the same color palette. So for this tip here, it's basically the same, except it's not tapered. It's just straight all the way down. So all I'm doing is I'm just using the same rainbow arcs, but you'll notice that I get a different looking flower. It looks more like a ranunculus, I guess you would call it. Again, I say I'm really not good with flower names, or pronouncing the names for that matter. But in order to make this type of flower, it's a lot less free on the tips of the petals. So it's more of a rounded shape that I'm creating. So I'm making sure to take care to leave it very up and down. With the rose, I flared it out a little bit more, whereas with this one, I'm leaving it in perfect rainbow arcs. You also might notice that you get a little bit of buildup on your tip as you're doing this. It's just because you're dragging it through your buttercream. So when I'm doing a lot of piping work like this, I do like to have a little piece of paper towel nearby so I can wipe it off very quickly. For this flower, I'm kind of showing you two techniques that we already did, and I'm combining them. So I'm basically creating a really wiggly border, and then I'm creating a rose in the center. And to do this rose, I'm making sure to wiggle as I go along all the way. Now, it's not going to be super wiggly, just a slight little wiggle at the top after I complete this center portion. It's for areas like these where I'm just kind of filling in the gaps a little bit and wiggling it out to the side where the texture of your buttercream really matters, because if it's not firm enough, it's just going to flop over. So as you're making the buttercream, you do want to make sure that if it's a little bit floppy, go ahead and add a little bit more butter. I used to always be afraid of doing that, but that's what helps get that stiffness. You'll notice that that cupcake had a little splotch of icing on it from before. If you mess up, honestly, just scrape it off and start again. That's exactly what I did. So I'm switching up my tip here, and for this one, it kind of resembles a peony, I think. So in order to make this closed peony, I'm actually turning this in a different direction. This direction is actually a little bit uncomfortable for me, but the reason that I'm doing it this way is because I want the tapered end, the thinner end, to be at the top and the larger end to be on the bottom. This makes sure that the petal stays nice and delicate at the top and looks a little bit more realistic. Now, in order to get this closed look, the petal tip pretty much does the job for you. However, you do want to make sure that you kind of layer it one on top of another. So it's not like the rose where I was flaring things out, and it's not quite like that other ranunculus flower that we worked on where I kept things up and down. Instead, we are leaning the tip inwards just a little bit. Now, I kept my tip fairly straight and smooth as I was doing this, but you'll notice that a little bit of a ruffle is created on the top. If you want your peony even more ruffled, then you can go ahead and wiggle it as you do this motion as well. For the last few final flowers that kind of resembled carnations, I would say, I used my other petal tip where it was just the tapered one and the straight up and down one, and all I did was the exact same motions for those as the rose, except I really ruffled it quite a bit, moving it up and down and up and down. This is the shot of the Mother's Day tea that I put on, so you'll notice that there are some savories as well. Also, how perfect is that macaron holder there? My mom said that it usually holds just crackers and things, but I truly think that that was made for macarons. And those cream puffs you see there are filled with the dulce de leche whipped cream. Honestly, so divine. I also made some smoked salmon toasts, and I also made this ashen brie with a spicy tomato jam and caramelized onions. All right, enough about the tea itself. Let's get into the pricing of these cupcakes. So although these are mini cupcakes, I would still charge $3.50 per cupcake for a custom order with a 24 order minimum, must be the same color palette, or else there would be an additional charge per cupcake, and for stock order, I would only charge $3 per cupcake. And of course, this would all be in Canadian dollars, so your pricing might look a little bit different. I'm just letting you know how I would generally price these things. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys.